And even as a kid, I was incredibly tuned in to what was going on around me. This is a quote. "I hope you can understand why it brings me such joy to put these experiences in a healthy context for you. You are not causing the events you are able to predict, and there's nothing wrong with you. Your sensitivities simply allow you to know certain things that defy logic and the limited definitions many people have of what is possible." That's page 189 of a book I read this past spring. I wish I could have read that excerpt to young me. Let me introduce you to the person who wrote it. What's your name and what city are you in?
Judith Orloff, MD, Venice, California.
On this episode, the topic is mental health, and I'm currently reading your book, The Empath's Survival Guide. For the unfamiliar, what's the book about?
The Empath Survival Guide is a book for all sensitive, caring people who have open hearts, who are intuitive, and who are connected to nature and connected to people, but tend to be emotional sponges and take on the suffering of the world or of people and don't know how to set the clear boundaries so they're not on sensory overload or exhausted all the time.
I fully identify with that. How did you discover that you're an empath, and how old were you?
Well, I was probably about 7 or 8. I didn't have the word empath. That I was an only child, and I was very sensitive. I had strong intuitions. I had dreams that came true. I had, just strong sensitivities. When I went in shopping malls, I couldn't figure out why I would go in feeling fine and I'd walk out being exhausted or with some ache or pain I didn't have before, or anxious or depressed. I didn't realize I was taking on the emotional energy of the people in the shopping mall. And so I felt I was an empathic child, but I didn't have any label to put on it or any way to define it. So I was lost. And my parents told me to never mention, my empathic or my intuitive abilities again. So I grew up ashamed of these abilities, and I thought there was something wrong with me, that I had them, that I was too sensitive, that I didn't have a thick enough skin, that I didn't fit in the mainstream, that I would rather, watch the moon or walk by a creek than go to a party, that kind of thing.
How did you accumulate info of such an esoteric topic?
To me, because I've lived it since I've been very little, it's not esoteric. It's very basic to life and my happiness and my energy. But I'm a psychiatrist now, and I'm an MD and an empath. So I incorporate my empathic, intuitive abilities with my scientific training and academic training. So I combine all that in my practice of psychiatry and in my workshops. And so this is something that's very important to me, to integrate aspects of myself and to bring in my sensitivities with everything that I'm doing. And so this book, The Empath Survival Guide, is kind of a lifetime of accumulation of the skills I've learned and what work in my life, because I've had so many challenges as a sensitive, empathic person, getting overloaded by overstimulation. Just simple things like, what do you do when you're in an airport and just things are bombarding you? How do you deal with that? How do you deal with people who are, strong, very strong and emotional, and how not to take it on in my body? So all of this I've accumulated, over many, many years of practice with patients. And so I wanted to offer it to people. It's not an academic book by any means. It's a very personal book and very instructive. So if you're absorbing the energy of other people and you want to enhance your creative, beautiful sensitivities, which is what I'm suggesting, I'm a champion of that. I've kind of devoted my career and my life to helping people develop their sensitivities rather than be ashamed of them.
I'm experiencing that firsthand as I'm reading the book. And actually, this question is for me personally. I am an empath, and I think I'm so sensitive. I try to turn off or dull my emotions as a result. Sometimes I come off as being coarse or unfeeling. Right. Do you have any advice as to how I can maybe better balance that?
Yes, well, it's so beautiful that you're an empathic man. And empathic men have special challenges because, they have, a lot of them have been, I don't know if this is true with you, but have been bullied in the schoolyard, have loved poetry and the woods and music, and, didn't like video games as much, or being in large crowds, or playing football, whatever, other non-empaths like to do. And so, you're, a beautiful example of a sensitive man, but empaths sometimes come off aloof. I've been accused of that because it's like I'm in my bubble. I'm protecting myself from all the stimulation that's coming out at me. And so it seems aloof, but it's not aloof. It's just protective. And so what you can do is, I don't know if you're at a point where you've come out as an empath. Well, now you have with this show, but I don't know with your friends or colleagues, if you felt comfortable sharing, that you're an empath and what that means. But you might want to, with those that, are closer, you might want to say, I need to take some alone time now because I have to decompress. That's a self-care tool for empaths. And I'm not rejecting you. I love you. I want to be my best for you. And that means I need to go in that room and put my do not disturb sign on and meditate and think, or feel, look out at the moon, look out at the birds, do whatever you want to do, but don't have stimulation coming in.
It's almost hard to do this interview because what you're saying is so applicable, and it's stuff that I've fought with my entire life, and never having this conversation. I've never in 44 years even come close to having a conversation like this. And wow. It's so applicable. So it's almost hard to stick with the train of thought in this line of questioning, because it's, wow, I'm really floored.
I love that you can say that. I love that you're floored. It's extremely exciting to find out you're an empath, and that it puts things in place for certain people, for a lot of people. I've received so many emails over the years. I am so grateful reading the Empath Survival Guides. I found out I'm an empath. I never knew what I was. I always thought I was strange or weird or something wrong with me, or psychotic or antisocial or whatever, all the labels that come in with just having a different level of sensitivity. And as a man, we need you. We need to have sensitive men who are in their power. It's a misconception about being an empath is you become soft, or you become somehow not courageous or able to take a stand about things, and it's nothing like that. It's just learning to center yourself with your sensitivities so you can use them for the good in your personal life and in the world, because we need empaths more than ever now. We need empaths in their power, not empaths who are just exhausted all the time and wanting to stay home with their animals 24 hours a day because it's too much to think of going out. And, that's okay if you want to make that choice, but we need some of you to get out in the world now and make this a better place. And empaths, because they have such big hearts and care so much, and that's sort of their downfall too, because if they don't know how to not take on other people's anger or nervousness or resentments. People walk around, they're like a field of emotions that can drain you just by going by them. And you don't want to do that. You want to be able to say, I'm a centered person. I am in my body. I'm not floating around somewhere else. I am grounded. I am strong, and I am kind and good, and I can make a difference. All right. So it's the power of kindness, and the power of strength that empaths have, and the connectivity to other human beings. Empaths don't do us versus them. They don't understand that crazy mentality of us versus them. It's we on this planet. Empaths feel a connection to the earth and to humankind, everybody, because we're all human beings and we're all the same package, and empaths know that. That's not an issue for them. It's not an issue of debate. It's just, I feel it. I feel you, Parker. I feel my friends I haven't met, who are maybe in Ukraine or, in Russia, my friends in everywhere, I feel them and I know they're there. And you see, when you're an empath, that is a great source of knowing and power to feel that interconnectivity with everyone and not have to make it a big debate.
You're kind of touching on, major world events. And that's something, especially in the last month, just zapped. I'm overwhelmed. I'm not even able to take in this amount of news that some of my peers are. Like, it's just too intense.
Absolutely. No, nor should you be able to. No, I advise all my empath patients who are addicted to the news or tend to turn it on a lot, not to do that. It's too much. Little mini doses of the news, that's okay. But there's one thing that as empaths, and certainly for me as a psychiatrist, to learn how to do is not take on people's suffering. As I couldn't help anybody who's sitting across from me with whatever it is they're going through if I'm absorbing everything they're going through.
I'm going to switch lanes just a little because I found this book that you released maybe around 1996. And I wanted to know, when you started that first book, did you foresee this as a career?
That book was Second Sight, and that was my memoir about how I came out as an empathic, intuitive psychiatrist in a world of traditional science when I was terrified of what my peers would think of me. Did I foresee a writing career? All I knew was that I've loved to write since I was a little girl. I loved to write. And my mother published a book of my poems when I was about 14, and she asked me if she could, and she did. And I said yes, but I didn't realize the impact it would have on me because they were, my first kiss, my first this and my first that. And then she published it, and I was so overwhelmed I couldn't write for years. And it was just with this book that you saw, that Second Sight came out in 1996, that I opened up to my writing again. And I felt that power, like my biological clock was ticking and I really wanted children, but I wasn't finding a mate. And it was just, but then my writing came in, and my writing took place of that creative energy. It kind of lifted my intense desire to have children, and I started pouring it into my writing. And so did I see the 25 years of writing? No, but it would be what I would dream about and pray for. And that I'm grateful for every day. And I hope until the end of my life, I'm able to write, that I have the clarity and the vision and the muse is still speaking to me. I don't want to stop, but the muse has to come through you. You can't just force it. But I've been blessed with having a message that I want to share. And as long as I have that and I know I can help people, I'll continue writing.
When you step away from the pen, if you decide to, what's the impact or legacy that you hope to have created with your works?
That's such an important question to me. I've thought about it so much. It's so important, as I want the work to go on, and I want empaths, for hundreds of years to come, to not feel ashamed of their abilities and be able to create a loving world because of their beautiful hearts. And if I want to keep awakening people so they can feel the clarity and the happiness in their lives of being themselves and not having to feel like they have to fit in the mainstream or they have to be like anybody, that they could be their unique selves, empath selves, going down whatever side path they're going to be going on. The more the better. They don't have to go down the main road. They could go everywhere, like a rivulet in the creek, in the stream. Follow the water, follow the fluidity, follow the music. And if I can help people do that and learn how not to take on the suffering, because that's part of, the lessons, is not taking on other people's suffering, including loved ones, and also the ability to show empathy to yourself, because that's often the hardest. It's easier to care about other people and to be kind to even strangers than it is for ourselves. So that's part of the lesson too, is not to beat ourselves up. Which everybody does. I know what they do. I've talked to so many people. So it's okay. It's all okay. But you want to do it less and less.
Thank you so much, Judith. Before I let you go, how can people get in contact with you or find more of your work?
You could find the Empath Survival Guide and other information about empaths and intuition and my work at Dr. Judith Orloff, ORLOFF.com. And my lecture schedule is there, and I have online courses, and I have all kinds of resources there for empaths and an empath support page. So you could reach me at my website, drjudithorloff.com.
I'm running over right now to get into this lecture schedule that you have. Thanks a lot.
Okay. All right. Thank you.